I'm
Okay.
taking care of my dog. She had surgery, so that has
Oh
been
no.
a couple of recently.
Okay. Okay. So I know you moved here, you're an immigrant, and you're also.
I like to be very well trained in something that I want to do. So I did my diploma in project management, and
That's awesome. So when you moved here, what were a few struggles that you had to face?
because of my previous training in school and university. But of course, losing your mother tongue in a professional setting, from Sofia Vergara, who says, "You cannot imagine how intelligent I am in Spanish," So it's kind of that.
Hi, how are you? How's your day been?
Pretty good. Enjoying the spring finally, which is
Yeah.
always good.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
taking care of my dog. She had surgery, so that has
Oh
been
no.
the couple of days I have recently.
Okay. Okay. So I know you moved here, you're an immigrant, and you're also very involved in project management and specifically for women. So we'll start off with when you moved here. I know you have some education here as well. So can you explain more about that?
Sure. Well, I'm from Colombia. And my bachelor is in psychology, and I did my master and PhD in Brazil around social policy. And before arriving in Canada, I was working mainly in academia, in university. I was a researcher, a professor regarding gender studies and reconciliation policies around the conflict that my country has and has been trying to move on after the peace agreement. I was involved in academia, as you mentioned. I finished my PhD at the 30s. I became head of social psychology and organizational psychology. However, I always had in my heart public service and to work with government in my research progress. I did work with government. However, I was thinking that I wanted a little bit of a change on my career path, which is sometimes scary, of course. And we thought with my husband, if we wanted to keep on living also in Colombia, we had a previous experience in Brazil. We thought maybe it was a good time to think about switching career path for both of us and switching country. I came to Canada on my doctoral research state. That is like a short period of when you come as a visiting researcher. I came to the University of Ottawa on sociology, and I think that was the seed for both of us to, okay, maybe this country aligns with our values. So the way we did it is that I came as a student. I was very curious about project management because in my time in the university, I focus on community and social projects, and I was very curious about how we could do social projects better. Like I know in a private sector that is very in outcomes oriented, right? I think we could learn a little bit about that on social projects and to be very intentional on the outcomes that we want to achieve. So I start learning on my own on project management. I did some courses with the World Bank that are available, but then I decided, okay, I want to do this in a most serious way. I was working as a research project management, but I did I'm in academia, I like to be very well trained in something that I want to do. So I did my diploma in project management and management at the University of Winnipeg, and that was kind of the start of my migration process.
Okay, that's awesome. So, when you moved here, what were a few struggles that you had to face?
Wow, okay, interesting question. Mm, I have some personal, although they are more as a family that I would
Hmm.
like to share. Um, of course, when you change country, I had a good English because of my previous training in school and university. But of course, losing your mother tongue in a professional setting is quite
Yeah.
challenging. Um, there is a meme on that, which is from Sofia Vergara, who says, "You cannot imagine how intelligent I am in Spanish," So it's kind of that. You have to, as good as you are in a foreign language, once you enter the professional sphere, you realize that you have a gap to fill, to be able to think fast, to have your arguments ready, like to be very comfortable with different vocabulary that probably you were
Yeah.
very aware in your own language. So I think that was one of the key issues. Um, and that I would think that is central when you're migrating or when you're in immigration process. The language is key.
Hmm.
Of course, my husband had another level of English. For him, was a process of getting stronger to be able to access professional jobs here in Canada. So language is a big thing. The other thing is you're always underestimate. I think I haven't heard the first person who told me, okay, I could foresee everything that can happen in immigration, right? You will always underestimate what happens, what could happen, the challenges. Other thing is the famous or infamous Canadian experience that sometimes is required for immigrants, right? Um, it's interesting that Canadian experience because a lot of people who come here are very experienced in their own jobs, not only in their, for example, in America, but they have been in multinational organizations, but still they are required like that Canadian experience. Um, and you and people quite don't understand where is that coming from. I understand that sometimes it's because people want to assure that you understand the culture, the way um, the way professional relationships are developed here in Canada. Of course, that you have local references. I can understand those points, but sometimes you have very overqualified people doing jobs. That they're overqualified, and also that the province or the country needs,
Hmm.
but they are not opening those doors. So the Canadian experience was challenged. I seek to work around on my volunteer work. I think that's a great way to do it as an immigrant, to get involved in volunteer work. In my case, was on the Project Management Institute, where I founded Women in Project Management with a couple of other women who were interested in opening a conversation in this field, right? Because we know it's a male dominated industry, project management,
Hmm.
but it's an industry that also has a lot of opportunities to take decisions, to improve your leadership, to work around projects that you are very care of, meaning healthcare, construction, IT, like. you take it. So we want more women taking decisions, taking leadership positions, and so we founded that, and I think that was a way of working around that Canadian experience to do your connections. I think that's a key. So I will have those two, like the language challenge and how to build new relationships towards a Canadian experience that is expected
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
from
I can
you. Yeah.
completely agree with you there because even with the language, right? I went to an English medium school. That's what they call them back home, is where, like, when you're in school, you don't speak even the native language of the country, you speak English. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I had pretty good English when I moved, but I didn't have the accent. So
Oh.
a lot of time for people to be able to understand what I was saying, I would have to repeat myself quite a few times. It obviously, right? I've been here for about 10 years now, and I've developed the Canadian accent because I moved here at an impressionable age. I moved at 11, so I can see how that can be impeding towards professional growth. I know that, like, there are DEI policies, there are people that say, like, okay, no, like, this doesn't matter, stuff like that, but at the same time, at the end of the day, people do take into consideration how much they can understand you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if they can understand you because of that language barrier, and if you can understand them because of that language barrier, that obviously creates a barrier. So I can see that. And, like, also with the making connections towards the Canadian experience, I think that that's much, much harder for people that move at an older age. Like when you and your husband moved,
Mm-hmm.
you guys moved to, like, I know you moved to do your PhD, so did your husband. And moving at that stage of your life when you're already super settled where you are, and then uprooting everything and moving here, and then making new relationships, making new friends, it's already, like, almost everybody I talk to that's even my age, right? Everybody
Mm-hmm.
says, like, it's so hard to make friends, but then moving moving at that point, with that language barrier and creating those new relationships, just adds another layer of complexity to it.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
in terms of women in project management, why do you think that project management is a male dominated field?
Well, it was issued by a report from the Project Management Institute. I'm very evidence based on the projects I work on. So, um, 2/3 of the field are male dominated. So most of project management globally are men. Of course, there are some industries that is more visible. For example, in construction. Um, I forgot like the actual percentage, but I believe it's between 80 or 90% of project managers are men, right? Other fields are more balanced. Healthcare is more balanced. Like it depends on the field, but it's a fact that it's a male dominated
Right.
field. And if you see every single field that you can think professionally has some involvement with project management, like um, it's a very like a very well developed methodology that a lot of industries are implementing, and and I think it's had a really strong connection with leadership, which I've always been involved. Always I have been working since middle school. I did. We had to do like a mini thesis in high school. I selected leadership on my research and professional work. I was researching around female leadership in conflict settings. And so it's kind of a continuum of reflection that I had in my life. But now I think how is a better way to impact in different fields, and I think project management is It's like I don't know, like that key that works in different doors,
Yeah.
like
It's the
so
master key.
it's a master key, exactly. So
Yeah.
it's a way to establish bridges with different women with different interests, but we all want to be leading change through projects.
Yeah, I think project management in itself is so versatile, and it's like, I know that you said like construction in terms of project management is very male dominated, and I think that construction, like the industry in itself, is very male dominated. And now over the last like few years, women have been making more entries into construction, but even for that, right? Like, I would say from what I've heard is that women do still get looked over, and there are still situations where they'll say like, no, you're a woman, you can't do this, right? So I know that you mentioned quite a bit of times that almost all the projects that you've been involved in have had something to do with female leadership. Has that had something to do with your personal experiences, or is it just the way that your education has been since you were little? Why has that been something that you're like pulled towards?
Well, that's an amazing question. Um, I think my family structure, I think, helped me a lot around those questions. I didn't do it as conscious as like a conscious choice until my graduate studies. However, my mother was an entrepreneur in a moment that is not quite common for her generation. And also my dad he was working in government and social policies, and he was very involved with um like work related rights for women, so back in my
Okay.
country. So I think that, of course,
That is
had a
kind of paved the
print.
way. Yeah.
However, I think it was I get like conscious around some of these issues on my master and PhD, and because I had a pretty strong mentor who is Deborah Diniz. She's from Brazil, mm, and she's a major like voice in South America as a whole. And now she has been working in the United States as a researcher on women's rights. So she was kind of the one who got me through some of the gender studies, to put names, to be aware of some of the dynamics that probably you live but you don't have a name or you cannot detect on. um, and you start like looking backwards, some things that you felt uncomfortable but you couldn't name it, right?
Yeah.
So for example, I had a professor in my bachelor studies in psychology who once told me, you are so intelligent that you look like a man, you seem like a man. And it's an example. You talk like a man. It's something
Yeah.
will be that the translation. So, and the moment you, oh my gosh, what is this?
Yeah.
But once, and that's why for me, feminist perspectives has been very important in my trajectory. Feminist as a way to understand the world, to question the world. Um, a lot of authors, right? Like to be able to understand some of the structures that
Yeah.
are behind some of the day-to-day relationships that we have. Um, because I do believe that if we understand some of the root causes, we will be able to be more strategic on the
Yeah.
ways we want to change it.
Yeah. I think I'll provide some context here in terms of the feminist perspective. It's not like people have a misconception of what the word feminist is. I think like this is what I've learned because that's what my degree is. So this is something I've learned over the past 4 years, is that people are so miscon like they just don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not women are above men, and it's not women should have more opportunities because men have these opportunities. It's just women are women. That's it. Right? Like I heard this
Yeah.
quote the other day that said, "Be a woman that's equal to 10 men." There's no comparison. Men are
Hmm.
men, women are women. I don't need to be a woman that's equal to 10 men. I just need to be a woman, right?
Exactly.
So even when your professor was like, "You sound so smart, you sound like a man," there shouldn't be a comparison in a woman and a man. Men do what they're meant to do, and women do what they're meant to do, right? There's no, you can't compare the two.
Yeah, to understand that. Well, that's I agree with you. Some misconceptions around feminism, um, and how to touch people. I think sometimes these conversations, and that is something I have reflected on my background in academia. Sometimes we put some distance to from people, and it's good to understand and to know the theories, but the way to communicate them or to
Mm-hmm.
be pedagogic around them, it's quite still a challenge, and
Mm-hmm.
in this times even more, right?
Yeah.
But really, it's about rights, about
Yeah.
understand. If you put it in the day to day for a woman, they were picked pretty quickly, right? The
Yeah.
expectations you have, the experience you had, the
Mm-hmm.
narratives you receive. You still, for example, here, and oh my God, these women leaders are so emotional, right? Like, all
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
stereotypes that the only thing that generates
Yeah.
is barriers for people, for women
Mm-hmm.
taking decisions on their own lives and having the same rights and the same opportunities as men.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think in a nutshell what I believe is
Yeah, I
feminism.
know, I don't know if you've heard this, but a lot of people, there's a thing that people say that's like, and it's mostly like men that don't understand feminism and what it means is that like, oh, so if you hit me, I can hit you back. That's not what feminism is,
Hmm.
right? Like that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about if you get paid, I don't know, like $15 an hour, I shouldn't be getting 14.50. I should also be getting 15 because we're doing the same job,
Hmm.
right? That's what feminism is about, is equity and equality,
Hmm.
not in terms of violence, because that's just like if you're thinking that way, that's a reflection on you.
Exactly. Well, I think the conversation with men it's still a challenge as well. Like
Mhm.
to work with allies, right? Like
Yeah.
to be able to establish bridges with between us. Um, of course, I do believe that the core of leading a feminist project should be with women, but we cannot
Mhm.
do it alone, like
Yeah.
because we live with men, and in fact, gender is a relationship, right? Like
Yeah.
between
Exactly.
human
Yeah.
beings. So we're trying to change the relationship, so you cannot do
Mhm.
without
Yeah.
the other
Yeah, I
half in
think
the
I think so far the relationship
Hmm.
has been men support, or like I don't know if you've heard this, but the most successful men have a woman supporting them. That's not the relationship that we're promoting anymore. It's that a successful family just stands together. That's it.
Oh, love it. No, I
Yeah,
haven't
I
heard
think
it, but I love it because
yeah,
I
I
have
think
heard a lot of that. Like,
yeah, like there's no, men can be successful by themselves. They don't need women, and women can be successful by themselves. They don't need men, right? I think that narrative is also changing in the future generations. I
hmm.
think that this is something that's so much more reinforced, also like specifically over social media. I
Hmm.
think like these conversations are coming up now and people are talking about this stuff more.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That is one side of the coin, and the other one is because what happened and we have realized is that okay, women enter like the professional world and they can be successful, but for example, the internal tasks of a family are still being done by women, right? So
Yeah.
then you got a woman who is exhausted
Yeah.
because they have to be their best in their job, and they have to be their best in at home, right, with their
Yeah.
family. So also we need that men understand that they have a role
Yeah.
in in taking care of the kids, taking care of the house,
Yeah.
on the caring
Yeah.
activities
Yeah. I
of
think that
life,
this is
right?
something that like people are more consciously making these decisions now. Is that like if a woman's going to find a partner for themselves, they're more consciously looking for people that understand that and understand the difference between like the roles that a man plays in a relationship and the roles that a woman plays in a relationship, and where they're both supposed to be playing the same roles. So I think people are more consciously making these decisions now, but there's still a lot more work to do.
Hopefully we're
Yeah.
making better choices.
Yeah.
And we promote those relationships, yeah.
Yeah. So, in terms of project management, what is the best way to dive into that relationship? Like, what is the best way to dive into that industry, I guess?
Well, you have different ways to enroll in this industry. I like, depends on your learning style. I always say that. Some people like to dive a little bit on their own before like committing in a formal diploma, for example. I think there are different ways to explore project management. Um, I mentioned one, the World Bank, but I know Google has some training courses that are short courses, like to try to understand, like, okay, what I want to do. Um, I think people who are interested in leadership, who are interested in taking better decisions to manage teams, all of these are involved in project management. We have like a triangle
Yeah.
of project management, which is like to understand organizations, political acumen, right? But also we have like management. Team management is another key skill set that you will be developing in project management, and the other one is the actual tools for managing a project properly in terms of budget or schedule, right, or scope. So I think people are like the way we are starting like having this different accessibility to short courses to understand, okay, I'm interested. I do believe in formal education, and
Yeah.
maybe I'm biased, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm from academia. I always trust in the very formal people thinking in a structured program. So, however, are different. There are different formal programs. For example, the University of Winnipeg. I'm not promoting. You can find this in other universities. That's the one I know.
Yeah.
They have, and I recommend. I did like my program. Um, they have one. There is applied project management, which is very focused, short. But if you want to dive more, you have the diploma, right? A lot of people start getting involved in project management not because they have a previous background in the field, but they have been working in projects and they start realizing, okay, maybe we can do this better, maybe we can improve communications, maybe. That happened with me in academia and in social projects. We had a really good team back home, but sometimes we had pretty hard questions on managing projects, and there is knowledge about it. Like this is not intuitive, right? So we have a lot of scope creep, which we call when a project is doing more than what was intended in
Yeah.
the at the start. I think that happens with most of social projects. We
Yeah.
start like with an objective, and then we start like
Broadening
have
out.
this scope
Yeah.
creep. Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
then you realize, okay, what was, where were we doing from the start? Like, and
Yeah.
some of those things can be prevented in a very easy way if you
Mhm.
have a couple of basic training in project management. So if you realize in any of the fields that you like, technology, healthcare, research, construction, right? If you realize, okay, maybe we can have better outcomes, maybe we can have better manage of the team, maybe I think project management is the way that can give you very
Yeah.
concrete tools are very effective.
Yeah. And I think, like, with formal education, I think that does put you at an advantage. Like you said, like, I could be biased as well because, I mean, almost every single time that I have been looking at professional development, that's been one of the things is like, do you have professional education, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they do look at experience, it's not like they don't, but it's they still do look for your education, right? And in project management, it's so like when you're trying to learn those concepts, it's so easy to like get a diploma. I know that there's a couple certifications also that you can get. There's
Mm-hmm.
the PMP certification.
Mm-hmm.
There's Lean Six Sigma. I know that that's more process improvement, but it also encompasses project management, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's with with professional education, there you have so much more ability to get
Mm-hmm.
higher paying jobs,
Oh,
right? I
absolutely.
think.
And yeah, oh, sorry to interrupt you. And because the certification piece is important for project
Mhm.
management, and you do need a formal training
Yeah.
for even getting the exam, right? It doesn't need
Mhm.
to be like a whole year diploma as mine.
No, I think it's like 30
However,
hours.
there are 60 hours, in fact.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I believe so. No, I'm not sure, but it probably are 60. But you do need like training for even
Right.
doing the exam, right? So
Yeah.
because and it's common sense, you want people who are doing the exam
Yeah.
to succeed, and they won't do it if you don't have like the basics
Yeah.
of the field.
Yeah, and I mean, like it's like any professional designation, right? The
Mm-hmm.
PMP, like it stands for Project Management Professional. It's the same thing as like going to become a lawyer or a doctor or anything. You would expect for them to have formal education and designation, right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. Being a project management professional, they would expect you to have formal education and to have that experience, and to know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a very well systematized like field, that they
Mhm.
want you to know, the tools, some of the basics of how to manage team, how to improve communications. Like,
Mhm.
and that's why you want a project management in your
Yeah.
a project management manager in your team, right? Because they have the
Mhm.
tools you want to for succeeding in the project.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, I think that this is a good place for us to stop our conversation. I want to
Mhm.
thank you so much for coming and talking to me today and sharing your experiences and all the knowledge that you have. And I hope that we can continue this conversation at another time as well.
Sure, thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Thank you
for
so much,
having me,
Laura.
and thank you for having this conversation. I think some of the things we reflect as immigrants or as a woman, they're correlated, right? We do know
Yeah.
that um, some the gender relationships, the patriarchal relationships, sometimes for immigrants, the equivalent is some colonial
Hmm.
perspectives on immigrants, right? So
Yeah.
um, talking about these relationships and trying to dissect them will help us to move forward.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that you came, and I'm so happy that we did have these conversations. I wasn't expecting to talk about feminism and the feminist perspective, and I'm so glad that this came up.
Oh yeah, I think feminism for me is something that will I try to practice. That's
Hmm.
the word, practice every single day, because of course we grew up in a patriarchal society. We are
Hmm.
not immune to it.
Yeah.
So we, for example, what you mentioned around the accent, or when a woman is the only one
Yeah.
in a meeting, right? Like
Mhm.
you the first place that we need to deconstruct those notions of ourselves
Yeah.
is with the internal talk we have. So that's why I think feminism I practice every day is like, I don't know, meditation or something you need
Yeah.
to, or the colonial practices, right? Like, okay,
Mhm.
I need to keep working every single day on this.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much again, and I can't wait to talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you, Kushi.